Okay, Markus Marthaler from Switzerland. This is the ultimate mashup, man. This is sprint swimming and distance swimming combined. Here we go.
Exactly, exactly. Long in the making, I guess. And
Yeah,
for me, an
yeah.
honor to be on here, hey, with a legend, actually.
Oh well, no, I just do my thing. I think that we've both created our own careers. You're a former pro swimmer yourself, a triathlete coach, and you got a big following on different social platforms, especially YouTube. You have a huge following on YouTube and Instagram. So congrats on the people that are willing to tune in and listen to what you have to say.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, as I said, for me, I said it to you before. For me, it got bigger than I am. It started
Mm.
off with a daily log, and so I could some sort of start to create my own voice, and now people listen to me or follow me because of, on the one hand, authenticity. I'm not a
Yeah,
pro. I guess people can relate to me and see, oh, I can do that, or yeah, okay, I still have has an everyday life. I still work in finance. I have my own company and my business, and yeah, I still do that. Beside that, I want to try to compete as well and be as professional as I can, and um, share what I know about the sports in my view. And I think there we are actually very, very much in line with what you
mm,
do, especially with the sprinting thing or the sprint revolution now,
mm,
and with what I do, where we know something to the, like, to the
yep,
smallest thing,
yep.
and we know what's it all about, and we want to just share that with them. I guess it's not rocket
Yeah.
science in the end.
No, it's not. I think we just have our experiences and we have an understanding. And the more you put time and energy into that, the more you understand it, the more you're able to speak on it. I got to know you through scale swimming. You and I both have books out now through scale swimming, which I think are fantastic. Yours is incredible. You have a training book out. Do you have a couple of them or just one right now?
I have just one. I have that.
Okay.
We created. So there are actually three books, which in the end will be out. So
Hmm.
one will be. It's a cycle of a swimming, or of
Right.
a preparation to an event in the end. So the
Hmm.
first one will be the training cycle, where you would put in all the work, and you have a lot of, like, bigger volumes, less time to breathe, or less rest time, and then
Hmm.
more volume in the end. Then the next book will be a mix of the first phase of that, like eating kilometers, and then going into the training side, where you want to push your limit from, let's say, where you are to above 100%, where you
Yeah.
do you have longer breaks, but you want to
Hmm.
try to swim faster. And the last
Yep.
one will be like a mix of that phase and the tapering phase in the end. So
Mm.
how a cycle, or how I would do a cycle in the end.
Yeah.
And this is, yeah, of now one. But you started off now with one book as well, or you're gonna do
Yeah, I
more?
have a resistance book. They're brilliant. I love them. The scale swimming books. Check them out. But we both have one. But the thing that I love about them, they're just simple, easy to follow, waterproof. Obviously, you can throw them in your bag, and then just take them and put them on the side of the pool and kind of just run yourself through a really good workout. And the other thing I'm sure with your workout is same as mine. If you've got 30 minutes, you can get a set in. If you've got 45 or an hour and a half, you can just multiply different sets as you go. My book is more about resistance training.
Mhm.
A lot of people talk to me about how do you increase strength and power in the pool. And in previously we've thought about strength training outside of the pool, but we don't necessarily think
Yeah.
about strength training in the pool. So my book is on resistance training and how you can build strength and power through resistance. And it's very simple to follow. You need a couple of easy, simple pieces of equipment, and off you go, and people can follow it. Really, really cool. But in terms of your background with distance swimming, let's say, how did it begin for you?
So it all started as there's a quote which I usually use, also when people talk or ask me about it. My mom used to say that I could swim before I could walk. And so there it started, and that was very early on. And the second thing is why it all started was mainly I have ADHD, and some sort of I needed something to have an outlet, so to get everything or the excess energy out.
Yeah.
And somehow we found that home in the pool, or I found that place in the pool. And so with this excess energy, I with the training, with the structure, and and swimming is great in that, because that was when I was about 5-6 years old, and swimming is great with that because you do so much for in the end so little, but it's perfect. Like it gets you focused, it gets you everything. And so I could calm myself, I could tame myself, I could control myself. And this is with how it all started. And afterwards, I mean, I got better and better. I was on a national level, I was very good, and I could compete in national championships and international as well. And on national side, I was on the Swiss championship, and was Swiss champion and all these kind of things. But afterwards, internationally, I had some sort of a breakthrough, but I never really had this last thing which you need to be really on the top, like that last step which you need to do until you are like one of the great, like you are, or like Ian Thorpe or Michael Phelps. There was always something missing, or how I said it in another call, either I had a limit for a big competition a year before, and then you need to confirm it in the same year, like the Olympics, and then there was something. And there was another saying which people always said, I was a trainings champion, or like a trainings world champion.
Right.
I was really good in training, and I could have sets and be better than even world champions. But yeah, I couldn't transfer it into the competition itself. And so, and this for me was always the reason that I have a bill open, some sort of, or that I'm not done yet with swimming.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, a lot of people, there's two misconceptions about me and what I'm doing now with the sprint revolution. Is people think that I'm anti-distance swimming. I'm not at all. And what I am is I'm anti putting people in the wrong places. It sounds like you found swimming, and you found distance swimming was the right place for you, and that's where you found your fulfillment. And that's all I'm trying to get at, is that we need to place people in the right spots. I think we can do that younger than what we're doing it right now. I still believe we're not really doing that until 18. By the time we're 18, we're starting to say, well, maybe you're a sprinter, maybe you're a distance swimmer. Up until then, everybody's kind of doing the same thing. And you know what it's like in training, and you go to these clubs and everybody's doing similar things. I think there can be some, I'm not saying specialization. I think there can be some, situations where athletes can be written and coached in different ways. That's basically what I'm saying, is like, look, if you're more prone to sprinting, you can go over here. If you're more prone to distance swimming, you can go over here. It doesn't mean that you can't swim all the strokes and do the training that's necessary, but just identifying athletes a little bit earlier. And then the other thing that I'm really big on is it's not just about the training, like you said, the mental component is so huge in competition. In swimming is very individual at times and isolated, and that mental component can play a huge part in results. So for me, like, I'm looking at the big picture of, when it comes to sprint revolution, is in order to be successful as a sprinter, you've got to be psychologically strong. You've got to have confidence, and all those things play a part in the training and ultimately the way that you race. So I think just looking at the bigger picture for certain people, and that's kind of what I'm here with you doing, is what are the things that make you feel good when you are doing the training that you're doing, when you know that it's right for you, when you know that you're on pace, when you know that the amount of volume you're doing, the amount of the number of workouts you're doing, when everything is working well, what does that look like for you?
Let me start there, and I think I can also also emphasize with you what you're saying about finding out earlier. So my dad, that it comes from my dad, usually said, listen, you need to always have done something for the first time yourself, like changing a tire. You can't talk about it if you have never done it. The same thing goes for sport, as in swimming, as in sprinting or long distance and whatsoever.
Right.
As much as I am, when you look at my technique, how tall I am, and my physique, you would say, yeah, that's mainly even a breaststroke swimmer, or mainly long distance, especially when you look at the technique. But I was also taught how to sprint, how to do it. And even when I look now, what the revolution or the change from my time to nowadays is, with this windmill kind of technique, I would always try it and see if it works. And there it starts for me. And there for me, I was allowed to do that. My coach was giving me the chances to try all these things. But then you need to also create very early on, and this is what my coach did very early on, a mind for yourself that you need to do more. For example, if you want to be a breaststroke swimmer, and you know exactly, and people know that you want to be a breaststroke swimmer. I had with Maxim Begora. He used to be Austrian champion at the same time as with Ed Moses when he was there. And we had a trainings camp together in Lanzarote. And we talked about it. And I also asked him, why do you know that you're a breaststroke swimmer? He said, yeah, I know. And then I said, but nowadays it's so hard. My coach always tells me, do freestyle. You need to do freestyle. Same thing as you would now say, they do long distance and you have the volume, but they want to be sprinters. He said to me, I just at some point started to do all the sets in breaststroke. So when they did 10 times 200, I just did breaststroke. And so I got better. And so he just knew. So I think it's a dual thing, and a sports, like an athlete, needs to be clever enough, or very early on needs to start to know what he wants, and then some sort of also follow through with it. Like put the nail in the ground and start. Just do it. No one, they will always go along the playbook. They will not deviate from that. Or the society didn't deviate from that. I think what you're doing, you're just doing it for other people. And this is what I see in what you do, especially with the sprint revolution, everything. Yes, it is cool to be a Flora Monadu and do that. But I then, on the other hand, say, guys, it's also cool to have such a long stroke, a high elbow like I have, like Flo Velberg has. Try to imagine I have a DPS of 180 with a height of 177. Do that first. This is cool. Gliding through the water like I can. A sprinter can't, or like you can, but limited. This is, I don't know. This goes in line with what you say, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Try everything. Look, I grew up the same way. I did it all, and you eventually find your feet, you find your place, you find where your happiness is, and you find where your comfort is. And I'm not saying comfort in the sense that you're avoiding something else because it's too hard. No, you find your comfort in what you were born to ultimately do. Ultimately I was born to sprint. Ultimately, I think you were born to swim distance and compete in different events that go for hours at a time. I was born to swim for about 20 seconds. That's about it. I can't do much more than that. But I appreciate all of it. Like you said, Florian Welbach has beautiful strokes. Some of the distance swimmers around the world right now who are competing at the highest level have some of the most gorgeous freestyle strokes you'll ever see. In terms of their length of stroke and their balance in their stroke, their soft 6-beat kick, and they can turn it on. They have a change of pace as well. The flow in their hips, the way that they can glide, like you said, and conserve energy. I mean, it's all magical. It's beautiful. And when you see it done well, you really appreciate it, don't you?
Yeah, you do ultimately, and that's actually what I tried to say with that. But on the other hand, and that is actually the beauty of it. On the one hand, you have the sprinter who has this glorified, I'm the fastest person in the pool, like Cam McEvoy or whatever, and they can say that. Yeah, their technique is also, I mean, listen, I tried it now several times myself, you know, the windmill, that tri-fast, and yes, I had also 10 seconds all of a sudden before, I mean, but then again, you see my turns and then you realize, oh no, that's nowhere near a sprinter. And this is maybe also differentiate, or the deviation from me to you, or from a sprinter to me, where I say, okay, you know what, I don't want to be that technical about it. I mean, I am technical with my stroke, but I don't also want to, like, every turn or whatsoever, I have a good underwater phase, I have a good glide, and that's enough. If my turn, if I don't even have even the ability to turn properly because I broke my hip when I was very young. And if I do the normal turn, you know, the turn when you, as a sprinter, you need to have, especially on long, like the short course, like turn on your back and then push off like almost on the back and then turn by have a streamline. I can't even do that. That hurts. And that's like a small thing. So I needed to find my way of doing it. For me, it's fast, but if I would go against you, I guess no way in hell. I mean, I have no chance.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I can do it for a lap or two, but after that it falls apart. So it's like I'm completely useless after that. So, you know, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Tell me this: what do people come to you for? What do they identify with you? What are they getting from you? Because you have a huge following, like I said. So when you look at when you talk to people, or when they put comments in, what do they identify with? What are they looking for?
Well, on the one hand, I guess it's something I said already. It's something that people see me and they see someone who has a state-of-the-art technique, or someone who can do it, but he's not really a pro, and he can still do it. I think it's this thing, not authenticity. You know, I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'm doing it for myself. If social media goes tomorrow, I don't like. Yeah, okay. I will still continue swimming. I will still try to have still do Ironman races, and I still want to go and do this world record attempt in July. I mean, it's I still do it, but I think people in the comments mostly appreciate that. On one hand, yes, it looks nice, but also it's not polished. All my videos are edited in the way that I cut out the sequence of a longer video, but I'm not editing it. Like I don't mark it up or do anything. What I have is raw footage. I just cut out the sequence and say, oh, that's nice, and I put it in. It's not like that's mainly why people I think look at it and say, oh yeah, that's really like raw, it's authentic and whatsoever. I'm just amazed that, try to imagine, I also see another point. Back in the days when we were young, we didn't have social media. And now I'm looking at all these swimmers out there in Switzerland or in Europe especially, and they neglect that. They are now pros, and they have maybe they're found like the people who fund them, but they could do much more in social media. I mean,
yeah, I agree with that 100%. You know, I see a guy like Michelangelo out there. Michelangelo's filming and showing, and he shows good, he shows bad, but he puts it out there, and we learn from it. We kind of walk through his experiences with him, but not enough people are doing it, are they?
Look, there is another reason why I do what I do, why I started to, for example, I started YouTube, is when you look at until me, maybe, or like there was a couple of, or you, or there are others which are like coming really from the pro time. There was not much else not other people who would talk about swimming. There were either coaches on YouTube or on socials. There were either coaches who were good coaches, but they are not good swimmers.
Right.
Or there are people like Ferris, who was also kind of more in the master section. And most of the other account, like you had a talk with Ferris a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
And he comes, so from what I know about his he did college swimming, but he he had his prime mainly in master swimming as well, like where he comes from, but he doesn't know the same things that we know about the sport, or that I know about the sport. And that's why I set out, listen, I want to be the person, if I'm already going that route and I'm talking about swimming, I want to be the person who, I've done it, I still do it, this is how it's done, and there is no specialty about it, like this is how the technique should look like, and I show it to you. You know, I don't know if I get the point properly, but this is if it makes sense, like it's I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense for sure. You know, you're out there doing it, you're living it, and people are connecting with it because it's not polished, it's not fake, it's not, you know, cut up in a way where it's you're showing a snippet. It's just like, this is me swimming, and people can identify with that. I like it. How often are you training now? Is it still a big part of your life?
The training is such, yes. I mean, I do 2 to 4 hours a day. I mean, Ironman racing or Ironman triathlon, I do only long distance, demands that from me, and I do 2 to 4 hours a day. Obviously, it's not only swimming. Swimming is definitely 3 times a week. And in winter, it's about 4 to 6 times a week, just for myself. Also, if I need it more for my mental sanity, because with my other job or anything else, because swimming is still the only place where I can vent and turn off. But I also do the rest of the time. I do cycling, running, and gym sessions where I would do the rest of it. And this is my training schedule, actually.
Do you swim on your own, or do you swim with a group?
Well, I there are people come with me. Let's put it that way. So I started off all by myself. I like to train on my own. I like to. I have no problem, especially in cycling and running. There is not a lot of people who want to come at the times I can train, you know, or they want to do these amounts or volumes which I want, and I don't want to start talking about it. Oh, we could go there. I just do it, you know. If people can call me crazy if I do a hill because I know I need to get a certain watts or a certain mileage on. I do a hill 3-4 times, or a mountain road 3 or 4 times in a row. Go up, side down, go up, cycle down. I don't want to have people say, "Oh, I can't do this. It's so crazy." I really don't want that. And when it comes to swimming, it started off with one guy who saw me swimming, and he some sort of changed his life and came to sport and did Ironman. And at some point he said, if he can join my training. And I said, I'm not gonna make it slower or gonna do less. You can adjust it, or I tell you how to adjust it. And 3 years later, he's still coming to almost every session I do. And he went from 140 on 100 meter to 120, 115 on 100 meter. So
that's awesome.
I guess, and for his training, it works, you know.
What's your advice for people that do train on their own like that? Because to me, I can't do it, right? Like, I think that the most success I have is if I write a program before I go to the pool, so that way I'm not just making up on the spot, and I make an agreement that I'm going to hold myself accountable to finishing the work that I've written, so that you can't get out of it halfway or you can't cut corners. Like, do you have a secret method to how you are able to get through your workouts on a weekly basis like that on your own primarily?
Well, I guess as a secret method I don't have, but I guess it has many like angles where I can look at it. On the one hand, there was social media, obviously, to get me back into, or like some sort of make me do it. And now I have the routine, even if I don't want to. My legs, I get up or I stand up and my legs walk to the gym or walk to the pool, and I do it by myself. And one thing I always had is, once I'm in a session, I don't have a problem. I enjoy it. I take the joy out of every single session which I go to, even if at some point I don't feel like it, but I know exactly I need to finish it. There are days when I'm really tired, when I have moments where I say, "Oh, shorten it. Instead of 5, I do 4Ks or something like that. But that's very rare.
Yeah.
But I guess I got used to it. But, when you're a distance swimmer like me, I did trainings. That's the deviation which I said about the breaststroke swimmer. At some point, I realized I need to get the volume in. I need to, if I want to be better, I wanted to get the volume in. So I need the training. The coach won't teach me more. Like he won't be longer at the pool. So I need to do it myself. So then I started to do one session, in front of 2 sessions. I did my own session. So I did an hour early, and then I did in this hour I did a set which we usually did in other trainings, and I started to enlarge that, and some sort of that stuck, and I still can do it. A secret method, I don't really have.
Well, I like the fact that you said you have routines. Routines they're not a secret. Everybody knows they're worthwhile if you can establish them. And once you do, then you're in a routine. It's very hard to get out of it. It's almost the opposite effect of like, I've got to do this because I'm doing it all the time. So, how do you know how much volume to do? How do you know 2 things? How do you know how much volume to do? And then how do you know when to change the intensity?
So the intensity thing is really about the cycle. I believe in that cycle. You have a pre-phase where you do volumes, and as I said, shorter breaks, you swim a bit slower, but you get the volume, you do longer distances. And then you have the lead up to it. You do this training phase where you have shorter distances, more time to rest, and this is followed by this tapering phase. And I usually, let's say, my cycle would be 4 months. I would try to say, okay, 50% I would do in the first phase, where I would eat kilometers, where I do volumes and all these kind of things. It's always in the aerobic space and in that area. Then I would do about 30 to 40, almost 40 or 35% I would do in the second phase, which is the anaerobic phase, where you would have lot more break time between intervals, and but you swim much faster, and the tapering is then the last 10%, right? This is about the intensity. About the volume, it's hard to say. I can't really. I just know somehow. I make my calculations on what I know from experience. And I think there it helps that I had a good coach which taught me well. And also, he was also a person who said, Markus, you don't need to do always 10, 15, whatever kilometers like a Tom Dolan. You can do it like I show you. And he was very much in the face. He was a good friend of Gennady Turetsky. You remember him.
Yeah.
And this Russian kind of tribe. And they said, look, you train 5 kilometers, but these 5 kilometers, even if you're a distance swimmer, it needs to be perfect. Every turn, every time needs to be perfect. Every stroke needs to be perfect. And you need to be spot on with all your times. And in that time, you can do much more. That's why I understand what you're trying, like what you're saying. I understand your philosophy, because I would go the same route. Because if you're consistent with all that, and this is also what you said in a post, I think a week ago, where you said you don't need a training camp. If you're consistent with yourself and you show up every single day to this training, volume doesn't matter. You will do it. It's up here, and your body will be ready no matter what.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. A lot of people think it's about one magic week of, I just got to work hard this week and everything's going to fall in place. To me, it's like consistency over a longer period of time than that. You got to be consistent with your routines and your efforts and your recoveries and your nutrition. That has to happen every day. That's an everyday thing, and that's how you gain,
But there I would also argue, as I said, I like the theory of what you put up with the sprint revolution. I like the theory of what Cam McEvoy would say. I like this because, like, he some sort of is a good example because he just went out and did it. He was a 100-meter swimmer from what I know, and was this young kid on the block who would now be the new Olympic champion, and some sort of, he didn't follow through with it, but then he took his time out and came up with another solution.
Yep.
And there I would argue, when you talk about the kids and they now only want to be sprinters and they only want to do 3Ks or 2Ks, I would argue and say, listen, you, McEvoy, even Flora Monadu, when they were young, when you talk about between 5 and 10 years old, they did the normal as everyone. They learned how to sprint, and their coaches would sign them up for a 200-meter butterfly as much as they would sign them up for a 50-meter freestyle. They would do everything. Yep. You would swim everything. And after that, I think, and there it comes in the new ways that you say, okay, so now you had everything on when you're, let's say, 12 or 13, or the coach needs to also be clever enough to realize, now we taught everything, I have good material. Let's try to put him show him the way of a sprinter and start earlier. And I don't know, this is what I see with it.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. Like, look, we can argue those things all day long, right? But what it comes down to ultimately, the thing that we really agree on, and the thing that is evident in both of what you do and what I do, is discipline, right? Like discipline. Discipline is the key for all of this. It doesn't matter if we're talking about McEvoy or the top distance swimmers in the world. They're disciplined in what they do. Cam is disciplined to say, I need to do this every day. I got to stretch. I've got to work on my mobility. I've got to work on my technique. I've got to work on my speed, my starts, my turns, my skills. That all takes discipline. What you do is getting in the pool, holding paces, working variations, hitting volumes. I mean, day after day after day, and then replenishing and recovering. It's discipline again. So it's like we're all doing the same thing ultimately. We're doing it different ways. But if you don't have discipline, you don't have anything at the end of the day, right?
And yeah, exactly. And this is actually something which I said, there I think I hold in a coach who has all these swimmers a bit accountable and say, listen, start early on, because they won't get that in afterwards. They won't. They won't learn that later on in life. Right. You need to start.
You learn that early, yes, through really good coaches, young coaches that'll tell you, or when you're young, the coaches will tell you, this is what you need to do, and they hold you to that. And then as you get older, you get a situation like you where you can take yourself to the pool and work for 2-3 hours in the pool by yourself because you've learned that discipline at a young age. Let me ask you this specifically about your training. Do you use a color chart? Like, I know that's very common in kind of distance training, like a color chart to say, I'm going to do this much aerobic, this much threshold, this much VO2 max, that kind of thing. Do you work off that or not?
Not that specifically. So I have everything happens in my mind. Funny enough, it was a good exercise to do the trainings book because I needed to write certain things down. Also, when I coach now Noam Yaron for his lake swims and his world record attempt this year, I needed to write it down. I can't just have it in my head and there. I need to write it down and know it. So I would say yes, I work with that kind of method, but it's not that I would need to write it down. I could write it down, but it's not that I have my structure when I say, okay, I have a competition, Hamburg, for example, in June, beginning of June, and I have already done the cycle. So I'm full in this cycle. Yes, for example, yesterday was a bit different, but I'm now in this cycle where I would swim crazy times, have my breaks, and would be in the anaerobic phase. And it doesn't, but for me, it doesn't deviate from training to training. For me, it's a phase, like it's a long phase. And
Right.
this is a bit different to other. I think that is a bit different to other people, you know, or coaches, how they train.
Right.
For example, Jan Wolfgarten, we had this discussion as well once I had with him, and he said he mixes it up per training or has it in different trainings in 1 week, and I do the cycles more in months and weeks, some sort of.
Right. Right. So when you do a block of volume, like you're doing a block of volume, then, hey, you're putting it in.
Yeah. Well, okay. So when I talk about volumes as 10 times 400 go time 5 minutes, that is for me volume. And then hit everyone low, like hit everyone 430, 440, something like that, just to keep pace. Tack, tack, tack. This is for me volume. So my goal is that's why I won't. Something in age you lose. I mean, I'm 38 now. The top speed I lose. I couldn't swim below 4 minutes now. I can go close to 4 minutes on a 400-meter freestyle, but I couldn't. So I need to go to certain other measurement. And for me, it was 110 is in my head. So for my Ironman races, my goal is to have an average of 110, 115, and I try to be able to swim it as with catch up. And so I will train for that. So that means in a pool, I need to be, when I do pool training, I need to be between 105 and 110. So my times need to be there. So that's why I say 10 times 400, 430, and then maybe you go.
Right.
Or another.
And you use catch up as a way to conserve energy and to keep your flow. Is that what you do?
Yeah. So this is my let's say base. I can speed up from that, or could catch up kind of. I almost touch and then I go. And if I want to speed faster, I would just prolong this. I would just move my arms quicker, and then
right.
I would go faster. What I now do, this is completely different to what I did back in the days. I would try to do as little legs as possible. But that
I was going to say that. Yeah, I was going to say, do you train your legs at all?
No. Well, as you still need to. That is something which there is a big misconception in the world as well. I think from all these people who come into triathlon, especially, it's the same thing as with the fins. If you start off with fins, take long fins, not short fins, because you will destroy your kick. Because if you haven't learned it, you won't be able to get it with the small fins. And there is the misconception. If you want to have the kick I have on a 2B kick like that takes a lot of kick in your training. So I do kicks, I use fins, I still do it, but that allows me to be as balanced, and I know my body so much that I can just turn it off and not do it. And I guess it's the core training mainly.
Right. Yeah. So do you do kick sets, or do you just incorporate the kick into your swim?
No, I do kick sets. So it can be that 10 times 100 kicks go every 2 minutes.
And just kind of holding a pace?
Yeah, 130, around that. Well, depends on if long. Nah, it's not so much different. Maybe 135 if it's a long course, because you have one turn less, but 2 turns less.
Yeah.
130.
Now, do you do much training out of the pool, like in lakes, rivers, whatever, oceans?
Not so much, funny enough. No. So I do. So my problem with, and that is the challenge I always had, was, and that was also the reason why I never went big into open water swimming before as a youngster. I always stayed in the pool as a young person. So I stayed in the pool swim. I didn't do big time open water sessions because I couldn't see the ground, and I had problems with that, and that threatened me. But funny enough, lately I had a talk with Jan Wolfgarten, and he said, listen, we all don't like that, so it would have been obsolete. No, what I started mainly was just to have field trips. So I have a good friend of mine who has in Lake Zurich a house at the lake, and I'm very fortunate to have that. And we would, on top of the training I do, so in the morning I have a session on a Sunday when I'm here. I would a swim session, and in the afternoon we would go stand-up paddling. So that means we take our 2 stand-up paddles, go out into the lake. I would tie up my stand-up paddle behind his stand-up paddle, and I would swim back. And then it's usually between 3 and 4 kilometers, which I would just swim. And there I would to have, that's not about pace. Maybe I can try to speed up and slow down, but it's more about sighting and get used to the environment, how it is, and how in a safe, or in some sort of clinical safe way,
Right.
as much as you can. This I do, but I'm not. You can't, like, no one can tell me that he can train and get better in the lake. No,
yeah.
Not. And if
Yeah,
even
no.
sorry, when I talk to other long distance swimmer,
Yeah,
they don't tell you they're going to lakes and do 10 sessions there, and then no one.
No, I agree. Let me ask you a distance pool question, Ash. How do we get faster in the pool? What do you think? Like, how do we break world records in 400, 800, 1500? Everybody's training hard, everybody's doing volume. So there's got to be what's the next thing? How do we get faster?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it has, from distance swimming, I know that when people ask me how do I get faster, certainly not by, and that is a bit of a difference between sprinting and long distance swimming. I will never go 10 times 400 all out, or something like, with a 50. I will never do that. But what you do is you would get close to it. So you would, depending on the phase, closer to the competition, shorter sets, but you would simulate it. Let's say a 400 meter, you would do 8 times 400, 8 times 50, a certain pace. And this time,
race pace.
Yeah, you will break it up. And this time, then you get used to it. And another thing is how that, again, goes with the fins, because people look at you funny. Why would you have long fins? You need to also get used to how to swim that way. How does it feel to swim 20, let's say a 25 pace? How does it feel if you've never done it? So that's why. So if you ask me how to get better, is still the consistent training, but then you need to be clever in breaking it up and try to figure out, and then just train that. So 1 week you will go and say, I do broken. Let's say in the beginning of the week you do 2 times 400, 2 times 200, and in the meantime, in the between, you have a 10-second break, and then you do this 4 times, and then in the middle of the week, and Wednesday, you go and do 4 times 400, and then again you have these 10 seconds, and you will get it closer. And then or you can do it all in a set or in a session. And then on Friday, you would do 8 times 50 meter, and there again. And then you would mix up with fins and just to simulate all that, just on a bigger scale than sprinting, right? I guess, and there we are in line again.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing too. I think that's why we are ultimately seeing people getting faster, both in sprinting and in distance swimming, is that we are doing a lot more race pace specific type of work now. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of people get faster. We didn't do as much as that. We used to do a lot of threshold work, a lot of holding a pace that was comfortable. But I think now athletes are getting into a situation where they're holding paces that are really uncomfortable and doing a much better job with that.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked you did this, and this you can apply. I hope. I mean, they should all go and watch this series where you taught Cody Simpson for his comeback, some sort of
head above water. You saw that?
Sorry. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And there you had like this afternoon, or every session I picked up. For example, I can pick out every session which was displayed from your story with Cody Simpson, and then you would talk about it, and there you would actually have it that there was one session, it was raining all the day, the whole day, but you would make him swim this 50-meter fly ever so often, and he needed to get faster.
Yeah.
Last time I think you asked him, now you do the fastest today, and he was looking at you and thinking like you're cuckoo, but he was faster afterwards. But it's
Yeah.
also here a lot.
Yeah. 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 No, absolutely. Look, I think there's a huge component, you know, the psychological component is huge. And it's not, it's like you said, that there are some days where you go to practice and you're not feeling it. And then at the end, you feel so accomplished. You're like, I'm so glad I did that. I didn't think I could do that today. And then you go and do it. And that's just part of, again, I think that's part of the discipline that's required to be good at anything. You mentioned earlier you're training for a world record swim. What is this?
Yeah, so I will also my record swim will be to swim from Tobago to Trinidad. It's about 34 kilometers, a bit more than that, and no one has done it so far. So it ends up to be one. And also, I don't want to be too like. There is some specialties why it is, because you have a stream which comes from one side and everyone who failed, they would be just pushed into the Caribbean, and we try to do it a bit differently and just to accomplish it. And this will be my attempt, and some sort of not settling, like partially settling a score, some sort of. But also I was led onto it. Another challenge which is waiting for me is the Ocean 7, which I also will try to start at the end of this year, next year, and go on this quest. But for me, it needed to have a start, you know, this big bang which you get in. And I think doing this swim from Tobago, Trinidad, yeah, it will be, as I said, it's not a competition. It's for me. It's for me. I do something which someone else has done before. So, and I don't want to be. I can't be slow, because you need to speed up until the middle, because there the stream is the strongest, or the push is the strongest. In the middle, you need to have about 5 kilometers. You need to be able to hold the 110 average on 100 meter, and that is the specialty about it. And I guess I will be able to do it.
Wow.
That I can do.
Wow. What's the problem, man? You fighting some demons or something from your childhood, or what? Like, why do you feel like you need to go out into the ocean and swim across countries? I mean, to me, it's
no.
incredible.
Listen, it's really about what I said at the beginning. If I go back, and people will say now maybe I am cuckoo, but and I think America or even Australia was much better in that back in the days. If I would know what I know now about swimming and how I train, especially on the mentality, on the food, on everything like that, if I would have known that back in the days, we wouldn't sit here and talk about, yeah, I almost made it, but I didn't really, and whatsoever. I would have been up there as well, having medals in myself. And some sort of, I have a bill open or a score to settle with swimming. I'm not done yet.
Right.
And I always had some sort of this hunch or this thing in my back, even when I stopped swimming professionally, you know, when I was 23 and I went into corporate world, being in trading and banker and all this kind of thing and having a career there. I always had this in the back of my mind, and some sort of through Instagram and this journey on a to go to compete in Ironman races, I found some sort of my calling in the end, and this is what drives me at the moment, big time. That's why it's I have a score to settle, but also it drives me to achieve it and to be someone. And I guess now that is also something which people start to pick up and realize. Oh yeah, that is something which is inspiring, and we want to follow that, I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love the fact that you came back to it. You know, you went away from it, and now you're able to fulfill everything that you're doing things for yourself now, which is great. You know, you're setting these challenges for you. You're not trying to accomplish anything for anybody else. It's just a personal challenge now. I think people can identify with that, because we've all got our own personal challenges that we need to overcome, and finding inspiration in people is good. So listen, man, I'd love to come to Switzerland anytime you want to do something together. You know, I'd love to come out there and maybe work together and do a clinic or something, you know?
That would be, hey, that would be amazing, because for me, it's all you've done also as a coach, and that is something else which I, first of all, yes, you be my guest. Let's do it. I'll show you my spots and whatsoever, so we can do something together. I'm more than happy to. But that is something which I think is amazing about what you did. I mean, you had in Auburn and everything like that. You know, you had your, like, usually it's not that common that a former swimmer, a good swimmer, would become a coach that way and be able to translate that into passing that on. Usually coaches are someone who knows about the sport, but not necessarily the best. I mean, and that's what I like about your journey. I think it's remarkable there.
Yeah. I got lucky too, in the sense that I just finished as a pro athlete and went straight into a group of guys that were extremely talented. You know, I didn't have a transition period. I went from there to there immediately. And so I took all this knowledge and experience, and I had these guys that were just thirsty to be the best in the world. And they're like, Brad, you know how to do this. Help us get there. And so it was immediate that we just had this connection. And then all of a sudden we have these incredible results, you know, winning Olympic gold medals, breaking world records, because just that transfer of knowledge and information just was so easy to get across, you know? So I was lucky in the fact that I was looking for that. I was looking for someone to pass on the knowledge, and I found the people that wanted it at the right time, you know? So it was just perfect. So yeah, I love teaching. I love sharing knowledge. I love exploring the world. So every time I have a guest on who's from a different part of the world, I'm saying, hey, bring me out. I'd love to come and do something. So I'm actually,
we have to do it. We have to do it.
Yeah, we have to do it. Listen, I'm actually coming to Finland and Norway in November. So if there's something around November that we could possibly do, let me know. I'll be in the area. Okay.
I'm here. There's nothing planned so far. So let's make a plan. Let's put the nail in the ground.
I appreciate it. All right, Markus, thanks for your time today. Nice to get to know you a bit more. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Take care. Bye.